Fair warning, if you've never played a Final Fantasy game, this video might contain spoilers for you if you're interested. Funny, that's coming from me, being that this is pretty much the first one I ever beat. However, let's get into the video, and please subscribe if you enjoy the content. Helps out the channel a lot. I'd greatly appreciate it. Final Fantasy is a series that I was always familiar with even when I was a kid. However, admittedly, even though I had a PlayStation, I was too young to really be into the hardcore games like Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy even. I pretty much stuck to the more popular Nintendo games at the time, especially I was spamming Smash Bros on my 64, and I really got into gaming with the Super Nintendo. Final Fantasy is one of the most established and most popular RPGs or JRPGs in the world to this day. And Final Fantasy VII is a game that not only broke barriers but changed the way we looked at games forever. I did not get to experience that, and honestly, funny enough, you guys might be shocked by this, I never knew about the big death that happens in Final Fantasy VII, the one that pretty much sent shockwaves through the entire player base. Of course, we're talking about Aerith. I didn't know about that until one day when I decided to finally stream the game. I want to say this was maybe 3-4 years ago. Some asshole came into my chat while the title said blind playthrough and decided to just straight up say who dies. Yeah, that pretty much sucked, you know, took away the whole experience. Fresh eyes, right? All this time has passed and I still didn't know about that somehow. People definitely would have loved to see that reaction, but sadly that was lost. And with that was my playthrough of Final Fantasy VII. I was so bummed out that I let someone else take away the joy of even completing the game from me. Something that I regret to this day. Fast forward now to 2024 January, my fan base convinces me, look, you got to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. You should play the OG first, but I was kind of like, I'll just play the remake. Why not? I'll just play that. It's new. Let's play it. Right? I play the game and I'm instantly captivated not only by the visuals but the deep and rewarding combat system. I love the way that materia was used in this game and how you can infuse it in your weapons. I love the way that you can upgrade the characters with almost kind of like a skill tree, and just honestly, I knew that I was in for a treat because that first stream back I played for 6 hours straight, non-stop. Now, don't get me wrong, personally, the main selling point to Final Fantasy VII was, of course, Miss Tifa Lockhart. Come on now, guys. I don't really know if you team Aerith, if you team Jessie somehow, but, you know, Tifa Lockhart, you get me? You get me. Perfection, right? Yeah, you get it. Anywho, the game's story was awesome, and honestly, off the bat, the characters' voices were very compelling too. It felt like everything was properly put into place, and this is the perspective of someone that only got through Midgar in the OG, and I didn't even remember everything from Midgar in the OG because it was so long ago. So getting to see the opening sequence for what it was compared to the original was like, holy shit. Damn, back then we were dealing with blocks. Well, you guys were dealing with blocks, but me, I'm just like, oh, here's the fresh, awesome coat of paint. Like, wow, modern day graphics, cool. Not to say that the game was ugly, because back then, especially with the way it looked back then, the game was a marvel. However, seeing it modernized, I could only help but feel like, damn, the real fans that stuck with this game for so long, some people probably got emotional seeing Cloud look like that as he rode the train into Midgar and fucked up all of those Shinra agents. Honestly, the most compelling thing for me outside of just the graphical updates was pretty much the story itself, the narrative that it was trying to teach. It's a game where honestly, even though you are rooting for Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, Aerith, Red 13 and the whole gang, you kind of notice that Shinra is the big bad, but is this a game about who's good and bad, or is it as black and white as, yeah, Shinra bad, Cloud good, or is there more to it? You know what I'm saying? And so getting to go through the story and pretty much figure out what was going on through and through, it just got deeper and deeper and deeper, and I really appreciated that about the story. Now, if I'm being honest, I am definitely Team Cloud. I'm with Barrett. Save the planet. Shinra sucks, yada yada. And the more you see what Shinra's doing, and from what I understand, as much as I can understand, they're draining the planet of Mako, capturing the ancients. They want to harness all the power of Mako to pretty much get to this promised land that they imagine, kidnap Aerith, yada yada. They fucking suck. Especially them just making all these weapons, fucking people up, taking advantage of people, discarding people like used tools. It's very easy to dislike Shinra. Honestly, I wanted them to get fucked up so badly, especially Hojo. That guy sucks big time. But when it really comes down to it, this game impacted me a lot, and I'm happy that I started out this year playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it was something that I was putting off for so long, right? A game as legendary as Final Fantasy VII, and I don't really know what the fuck's going on. I've never played it. I've never beaten it. It was almost like I was delaying the inevitable in a sense, and I had to get to it. Actually, before this, Final Fantasy 16 was the first Final Fantasy I ever got through mostly, right? It just came out. I was like, yo, fuck it, I'm gonna play this. And I enjoyed it, you know? I enjoyed Final Fantasy 16. I know there's probably heavy debates about whether it's a good game, yada yada, mixed opinions, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. I have about 6 hours left. Sadly, wasn't able to really finish it, but I will get back to it, and of course the DLC. So it really means a lot if I boot up FF7 Remake and I just blitz through the entire game the way I did in about a week and a half. Just to comment on a couple characters, Barrett is fucking awesome. I love that he talks so much shit. I love his dynamic with all the characters in the game. He's awesome. His voice actor's godlike. That is a brother through and through, and I support his mission wholeheartedly. I already gave you the lowdown on Tifa. Perfection. Period. Aerith is a character that I really did not know much about personality-wise. Aerith kind of looks to me like this innocent chick, yada yada, but when it comes down to it, she's got some spice to her. And she's very interesting as being one of the last ancients alive. Like, that whole dynamic made her even more interesting too, because at first I was like, why are the Turks so interested in her? Why does Shinra want to kidnap her so bad? Didn't really make sense to me until later on, but it's like, oh, okay, that's what they want. Right. Okay, got it. I actually wish Red 13 was in the game a lot more. I feel like he just kind of appeared and then he was gone. Probably why they didn't really give him a full moveset. I see in Rebirth, you're going to be able to play him, but like if he's only there for like 2 chapters, like what's the point, right? But it was cool to actually see him even fight alongside you as a semi-controllable AI. That game, honestly, the combat, it was so godlike. Just being able to cut through enemies, pretty much cycle through characters. I know fans of FF7 were probably so damn hyped to be able to control Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, and just really fight with the entire cast and the entire party. That was so damn dope. And I really personally enjoyed the fact, like, when you're going through the menu, how the game kind of just goes into slow motion. It just felt so epic being able to slow down the game, cycle through spells. Oh yeah, you're weak to this? All right, bam, Blizzaga, you're gone. Like, I like that a lot. And I like that it wasn't a game where basically as soon as you hit someone, they just take knockback over and over and over. You kind of got to work for it. You know what I'm saying? They didn't like just feed you or spoon feed you being able to just beat down enemies or bosses. And speaking of bosses, Sephiroth is a fucking madman. It makes me so sad that Sephiroth is not as godlike as he is in this game as Smash. Now I know from a balance perspective, if you made him lightning fast, then yeah, it's gonna be problems. But my first introduction to Sephiroth and all these characters was actually Kingdom Hearts. I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan. And so when I saw these characters, at first I didn't even know they were Final Fantasy characters when I was younger. It's like, oh my God, all these Kingdom Hearts characters, cool. Sephiroth in that game, the way he fights, fuck. So when I see Smash and Sephiroth, I'm like, dog, they could have did so much more with him. Oh my God, he doesn't really fight like this. Like, I think him as a villain is very interesting because I still do not understand his purpose. Why is he the way he is? Why is he so, I want to say, evil? Why is he so strong? What was his motivation to become a soldier? What was Cloud's motivation to become a soldier? What does all of this mean? Where do they come from? I have ideas in my head, but because I don't have the solidified answers, I'm not really, of course, online searching for those answers. In fact, I can't even look at the comment section of this video because I don't want to get spoiled, right? I have to play Crisis Core, and then Rebirth is coming out, and I'm going to eventually finish OG on my own time, but I still want myself to have a fresh perspective and experience like all of you did back in the day. But I also want my viewers to be able to watch my stream and be like, oh shit, like he doesn't know this. This is going to be so hype seeing his reaction, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Now, Cloud, the last character I want to talk about, I actually found Cloud at the beginning of the game a very boring character. Felt like he was very disinterested in everything. He was a bag chaser, that's for sure. He was all about his bag, didn't give a shit about women. He just wanted his money. He wanted work. Let's get this money no matter what, right? He's a smart ass, sometimes often a dickhead, but it was kind of funny at times, right? I like that throughout the game, you kind of get to unlock his emotions a little bit more and more. It almost feels like a sense of self-discovery with Cloud throughout the game. Like as time goes on, he's understanding relationships with other characters a lot more. He's understanding his dynamic in everything that's going on, and he's starting to open up a bit more and entertain the idea of interacting with people, because honestly, let's keep it a stack, he doesn't seem like a people person at all, right? He also seems like at the end of the day, he doesn't truly understand himself or who he is or what his true purpose is, right? He knows he's an ex-soldier, but that's that. There are people that recognize him, but he doesn't really remember their importance or where they come from. And that's where I'm confused, right? Because I don't know much of his backstory. And lastly, actually, outside of Cloud, Zack to me, as someone who doesn't know who he is, I wonder who the fuck this guy is. He has a Buster Sword on his back. He got Cloud's fit on. I'm like, dude, who is this guy? And why does he talk like that? So I need answers, right? I super need answers. And I'm sorry if I sound super excited, but that's my enthusiasm kicking in, because I finally got to experience a lot of what makes Final Fantasy VII special. And even though it was in the form of the remake and not the original, I think the remake did its job by introducing this story and these characters to people who may be familiar with them just from seeing them because they are legacy characters, but didn't really truly understand who they were, what the game was about, or anything of that sort. And so playing Remake makes me want to go back and revisit the OG and actually get to playing and beating that game. Because let's face it, do you really want to just play the modernity, or do you actually want to go back and see the source so you can actually catch the references and actually feel what's changed? I love Resident Evil. It's one of my favorite series of all time, tied with Kingdom Hearts, period. However, as a Resident Evil 4 fanatic, with how many times I've beaten that game, I would never be able to truly appreciate the remake as much without having been in love with the OG version for all these years. And so doing this on the opposite end of the spectrum is interesting, because truly starting with Remake, in my opinion, and now going to the OG gives me a different perspective and a different appreciation now for Remake when I go into OG. I have no problem playing retro games. I'm actually a game collector. If you got Kuon or Rule of Rose, holla at me, but that's beside the point. I think that even though I lost a lot to time and not knowing truly how cool Final Fantasy was, Remake now gives me the ability, alongside Final Fantasy 16, to want to explore the series a lot more. I remember back in the day, I made a tweet on Twitter talking about, hey man, I'm gonna try Final Fantasy 13. That's gonna be the first one I started with, and Final Fantasy Twitter lit my ass up. Some very passionate fans, but there always seems to be this divide on which one is the best one. But I know definitely without a doubt, when it comes to legacy, notoriety, and of course importance to gaming history, Final Fantasy VII was the game that shifted barriers, upped the ante, and of course raised the bar. And for that, not only do I respect Square Enix for all of the love they put into this remake and the original game, but I also respect their ability to pump out consistent quality JRPGs. Now, whether you don't share that same opinion, that doesn't bother me at all, but I will always recognize Square Enix as a major player in the gaming industry, and of course the company that brought us one of the best games of all time. Thank you for watching. Take it easy.